24 minutes after 8 o'clock in Antigua and Barbuda, this is your wake-up call. The University of the West Indies Five Islands campus will host an artificial intelligence research conference from the 8th of July to the 10th of July 2024. This morning, we are joined by Dr. Curtis Charles, the Director of Academic Affairs at UE Five Islands. He's an expert when it comes to cloud computing, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. Dr. Charles is with us to share more about the conference. It's actually going to take about 10 minutes or so to give a presentation on the aims and objectives of the event. Welcome back to Wake Up Call, Dr. Curtis Charles.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, state staff, Darren. Appreciate the audience for always having us here to share what is happening at Five Islands campus. We're excited about this conference, Doc, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about it. So I came in, as you know, in 2020, just after COVID started, and one of my goals was to write a strategic plan for academic affairs. That was a 3-year strategic plan that sunsets this year, and one of the goals was to launch the planning for a fourth industrial revolution conference, which is the convergence of physical, biological, and cyber systems, artificial intelligence, etc. And we started planning this, and it just grew. And we realized that this is something that is really could be transformational. So we wanted to look at an AI research conference. We think it's the first one of this kind in the Caribbean. And as the 5th campus, we are extremely excited about the support that we have gotten from the rest of the campuses and the support we have gotten from AI experts in the diaspora from the Caribbean. The whole theme of this conference is reimagining the digital transformation of the Caribbean in an age of AI and the 5th industrial revolution. It's going to be held on July the 8th to the 10th. We have gladfully, we have been humbly supported by the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Authority. They see this partnership as something that could really give a different dimension to Antigua, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But when we look at the conference objectives, these are some of the objectives that we're looking at: to showcase cutting-edge AI research and innovation relevant to the Caribbean region, and especially aligned with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The UN Sustainable Development Goals are all aligned to every workshop, every keynote, every aspect of this conference. It's going to foster collaboration and knowledge sharing between AI research experts, policymakers, and stakeholders. It's geared towards discussing strategies and best practices for leveraging AI to advance sustainable development goals in the Caribbean, raise awareness of AI ethics, inspire innovative thinking among our young people and young at heart, and exploration of how AI can empower these different sectors, whether it's healthcare, education, tourism, agriculture, climate change. How do these wicked challenges that face our Caribbean region, how could we use this transformational technology to be a force multiplier to strengthen the Caribbean's capacity for adopting AI? Then we looked at, we said, okay, well, what are some of the goals and the benefits for the attendees? So these are the 4 key benefits and for the attendees: to gain exposure to groundbreaking AI research and real-world applications, network and connect with preeminent researchers, innovators, policymakers, acquire new knowledge, and be inspired to implement impactful AI solutions within your company, within your business, within the region. And what's it for UE? You know, for UE, 4 key goals are to establish thought leadership in AI research and innovation for the Caribbean region, to showcase excellence in technology and interdisciplinary studies at the University of the West Indies, Five Island campus, to attract top students and faculty in AI and related fields, and for new researchers, for new research collaboration with external partners. One of the things that we're doing with we have a team that's working on identifying international grants and contracts that's out there. And then they are mapping that to each one of the 8 to 10 panels that we have. And one of the outcomes of this conference is that the panelists that comes internationally here will then work on us in developing grant proposals to go after funding for the institution that will continue this work beyond the lifetime of this conference. And what's the benefit for Antigua and Barbuda? Benefit for Antigua and Barbuda, and that's why the Ministry of Tourism and Tourism Authority is excited about this, to be able to promote Antigua and Barbuda as a hub for technology and innovation in the region and globally, contribute to a thriving AI ecosystem and knowledge economy, to inspire new entrepreneurial ventures and foreign investment. And this is where I come in and said, I talk about this all the time. When I was interviewed, I asked me, why do I want to leave the States to come to Antigua to help start this university? I said, I firmly believe that everything that we will do could spin off and be the catalyst for the Silicon Islands of the Caribbean right here. So I think inspiring new entrepreneurial ventures and foreign investment in AI and address sustainable development priorities with AI. This is something that each one of our small development island states are very much conscious about, in that we have to address these sustainable development goals. And we think that AI presents a major catalyst to that, is a major catalyst to that. And then finally, for the region and the Caribbean. For the Caribbean region, what's some of the benefits? To accelerate the development and adoption of AI across all sectors, to enable inclusive and ethical approaches to AI implementation. That is really key that we hit in the conference. You got to be inclusive. This is not just techies talking to themselves. This is every panel. We want to have government officials, academic and industry, as well as development agencies like UN, UNESCO, etc. But ethic is really important, and we could talk about that some more, but we know that things like face recognition, where you have biases in other countries that's not as diverse as us, it then tends to discriminate against brown folks and Black folks. And then enhance regional competitiveness and opportunity in global AI landscape. Progress towards regional goal and priorities through AI, and set the stage for ongoing advancement of AI research and development. One of the things I wanted to just stress on before I go into the questions is there's an event that happened in 2016 that we all should be aware of that has gotten us to this point. In 2016, Google created a Go called Google Go, AlphaGo, from the division of DeepMind, which is now the folks that's leading generative AI. Go, if you don't know, is one of the most transformative games there is, board games. It's sacred to the Chinese. It's how they train folks in strategy. It's how parents train the kids in discipline. And it's 4,000 years old. No one thought that a computer or algorithm could beat the champion of Go. The machine won 4 games and the champion won 1. Now, just want to pause on that before the question, because what that did for China is to determine that by 2025, they will become equal to the US in terms of AI power. And by 2030, they are going to be the world leader in artificial intelligence. Why that is important to us? China has an embassy here, and China is in almost every single country. And they are on schedule to do that. What China has done in the last 2.5 years is phenomenal, and it's a blueprint for most governments who see this as an opportunity. So that's what we want to present to this conference, the art of the possible for the Caribbean region, and especially our campus, our constituents, Antigua and Barbuda.
Let me ask you, how far along is University of the West Indies Five Islands in preparation for this conference?
Well, we are at the stage right now. We have, I think the last count, we had like 50 confirmed speakers for the conference. We are working with some of the hotels to make sure that we have the rooms available, and make sure that this is held at one of the, I don't want to call it names right now because we're still in negotiation, but we're looking at whichever hotel gives us the best deal for hosting the entire conference there. We don't want to do this on campus. We believe that having this as sort of like a business tourist event is important. So we're encouraging non-citizens of the region, to bring their families with them. So the speakers are confirmed. We also have the keynote speakers confirmed as well. We have Chris Jones, who was the 2022 Democratic nominee for governor of Arkansas. He's from MIT. and his research is on cities of the futures. Then we have Dr. Nicholas Fuller, who's the Vice President for IBM Research for Automation and Edge Computing. And then we have Dr. Bharat Anand, who is the Vice Provost for Advances in Learning at Harvard University. And he's the Henry Bayer Professor of Business Administration at Harvard University School of Business. So we're looking at, I think there's one more major keynote speaker that we're praying to get, and when we get it, you would know it's going to hit the ground like a thunder. But we believe that the keynote speakers that we have right now are really important to the region, and important because one of them is Trinidad. Dr. Fuller is from Trinidad, and one of the things we wanted to do with this conference, the first thing we did is to say, we just don't want to have any keynote speaker. We want to have Caribbean leaders, because we know there are Caribbean leaders in tech all over the world. So that we did a search originally to see where the tech leaders, and I have to tell you, one after the other, they said, Dr. Charles, we have been thinking about doing this. We just didn't know how to do it. We didn't have the impetus to do it, but we're in, and they have sent us from one person to another person to another person, to the point right now where we have speakers from MIT, from Harvard, from Meta, Facebook, from University of Maryland, Baltimore County, from Google, from Microsoft, from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, from IBM, and the list is growing. And what we're seeing is that in the list of speakers who are confirming, they all basically have some type of Caribbean heritage. But what I wanted to also stress about this conference is that if I consider this part of the conference to be the structural functional part of it, right, then the postmodernistic part of it is the dance of digital dreams. The dance of digital dreams is a symphony of generative AI and human artistry. So while we have this structurally functional part with panels on the 8th and the 9th, on the 9th and the 10th, on the 9th and the 10th, parallel to that is also going to be this creative piece. How could we use AI in dance, in performing and fine arts, and music? Could we create new music? And how long is soca going to be? Could there be a regeneration or a reimagining of soca and some of the other music that's native to us? If we look at our poetry, our writing, how could AI help us? So again, we're working with the Ministry of Education and Culture. The Ministry of Education and Culture and Sports, to see if we could assist, if we could work with them. We're also working with the Cavell School of Performing and Fine Arts, as well as the Performing and Fine Arts program at the Antigua State College. So this is going to be really, really important to the region in terms of how we look at reimagining the digital transformation of the Caribbean.
Right. Let me just interject here. We need to share a couple of quick messages. Dr. Charles, we're going to continue for another 7 to 10 minutes or so before the end of our discussions. We're going to share some messages and we're going to come right back. More wake-up call right after. Charles, just to continue our discussion on this upcoming AI conference, how can locals, citizens of Antigua and Barbuda and residents of Antigua and Barbuda, and particularly students, participate in this conference? And I suppose more details will come to hand as the date draws nearer, but for the purposes of our discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. So we definitely have more information. We're working on uploading the website within the next 2 weeks, and we're finalizing the pricing right now. There's going to be a pricing structure for students. Obviously, there's going to be a pricing structure for colleagues coming from abroad. So we're gonna have this in such a way that it's going to be affordable, and it's going to be informative, but it's going to be open, and we want to see full participation from especially the employees at the government agencies. And as a matter of fact, this is an opportunity to answer this question, because on the 8th of July, which is the day before the conference, there are two significant things that's happening. We just added a ministerial Caribbean government ministerial panel that's going to address some of these key issues. And these are going to be ministers of education, ministers of digital transformation, technology, that's going to be talking this at the round table. But then parallel to that is going to be a deep dive into AI. So anyone who wants to understand how AI is impacting STEM teachers, for example. There's a track for STEM teachers. There's a track for government workers. So these are what we're trying to do is to find opportunities where those who may not want to come to the 2 days of the conference may want to just come for a deep dive on what AI is all about. I mentioned just now about the fact that we are looking at our first search was powerhouses in Caribbean leaders in tech companies. If you look at when I look at this program that we're developing right now, on the kickoff panel is an Antiguan. Agnes Francis is Director of Learning and Implementation Operations at Cox Communication in the US. Agnes has been a huge supporter of what we're doing at UE as well, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to bring in somebody from Antigua who's doing great things. Dr. Nyla Murray is the Senior Research Manager of Meta AI in London, from Trinidad. So, we have Nigel Henry, is a Senior Data Scientist at Microsoft. Lindell Senville is from St. Kitts and Nevis. And that's the opening panel, and that's going to be anchored by Dr. Waller, who is the Digital Transformation Leader for the University of the West Indies from Jamaica. So we are looking at really leveraging the resources that we have in the Caribbean to make sure that we address some of these issues. Your guest just a little while talked about the importance of cybersecurity. We had a discussion last year with the director of the governor of the Eastern ECCB, and he said that UE sets Five Islands needs 3 things. We need a nursing program, which we have. We need a data science program, which we added. And we need a cybersecurity program, because cybersecurity is tearing through the Caribbean's critical infrastructure. So there's going to be a key panel on how we could leverage artificial intelligence to address some of the cyber challenges that the adversary keep piercing into our systems. Every major issue you could think about, food security, AI in agriculture. You must know that the production of food must increase by 70% by 2050 in order to feed the world's population. We can't do that by planting gardens outside. We got to figure out how we could use sensors and big data and drones and different innovations to plant our food, whether it's in multi-story, whether it's at sea. We got to basically use the technology to make sure that we meet that needs. Look, that's just a few years away, and we see that AI is a way to do that. So we are bringing in, folks from. There's a colleague of mine who was at Microsoft. He's the CEO of Theory Mesh, which deals purely with countries who have food security challenges. And we think that food security is one of the major challenges in the Caribbean, more than any pandemic, because we could solve the pandemic, but if we're not producing food, we're still going to die. And lastly, if I could say that one of the things, if we look at the pandemic, we have a panel on the pandemic, and it's going to be anchored by the principal of Cable Campus, Dr. Clive Landis, who also was the UE point person for the pandemic. And he's going to be joined by another Trinidadian, Daniel Belgrave, who is working for DeepMind in Europe. And if we think that the pandemic was bad, more of our Caribbean people die from non-communicable diseases than the pandemic. So that panel is going to be headed by Dr. George Manso, Dr. Sherry Tulloch, who you know very well. So we're looking at an Antiguan, we're looking at a Jamaican, and Dr. Tulloch, as you know, is doing research on how artificial intelligence could be used to solve the issue of cervical cancer. She called me yesterday and was so excited and just got her fellowship to go to France next year to do some more studies in this area. So we're addressing some major issues at this conference. My grandmother would say, this is no mingling conference. This is a conference where we as the region could stand proud and say, regardless of our smallness, regardless of our newness, we have a network of colleagues, a network of companies that's going to come in to basically make sure that we shine the light bright on the future and the art of the possible. What we need from the public right now is all those tech companies that's basically out there that could benefit from the networking opportunities. We need sponsorship. That's what we want. And I'm so happy to announce that the Ministry of Tourism has agreed to be a title sponsor. We are thankful for that. We need all the companies that's out there. This is an opportunity to say that you were part of the revolution that started AI transformation of Antigua and Barbuda and the region.
Right, absolutely, and this is something that I certainly will be looking forward to as the day draws near and we get more information, and I know that many others are going to be very, very excited about some of these opportunities. When you hear the names like MIT and Google, Meta, Harvard University, I see my economics professor somewhere in the mix there, Professor Anand. Yes. What a bright fellow boy. Oh, gosh. One of these days, Dr. Charles, when I grow up. Thank you so much for being a part of our program this morning, as always, and thank you for giving us that update. And we'll certainly be watching this space here at Twin Island Media, and would be happy to partner with you in some way, in creative ways, to get the word out.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks, Karen, and thanks to your staff there and the Antigua and Barbuda community. We always appreciate your support of Five Island campus. Appreciate it. Have a blessed day.
Yep, brilliant. All right, it's now 8:45. No, it's actually 8:49 in Antigua and Barbuda. This is your wake-up call presented by Twin Island Media. Someone just asked me. I read it not too long ago, but I guess you didn't hear me. The APA Mobile Payment Center is going to be at